Eat my sword. Wait, I don't have a sword. Wait, I didn't mean it like that. Hold on.
We know what you meant.
I didn't. No, wait.
No. It's okay. You don't have to. It's okay.
No.
I mean, I guess that's better for diversity. I mean,
What?
No, it's okay.
I don't. Risk of Rain 2, the only game where cooperation means stealing your friend's most desired items.
From it though. Oh no, it didn't give me anything.
You're driving up. It's mine.
No! 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 I want it so bad! Oh! Now it won't give us anything! I hate you.
That was the most dramatic scream I've ever heard. Roguelikes. Not necessarily a game genre that I frequent, but I can definitely see the appeal of. For the uninitiated, roguelikes are essentially games that have a combination of features such as permadeath, procedurally generated levels, scaling difficulties, and item management. Not every roguelike is the same though. For instance, Risk of Rain 2 doesn't use procedural generation. But it does, however, have up to 4-player co-op, which is why we're talking about it today. Now I know this game is still technically in early access at the time of recording this, but when my friend Justin showed it to me, I just had to make a video on it. So I guess there should be a disclaimer. Everything that I mention in this video, good or bad, is subject to change considering it's still in development. For those of you who are new to this channel, I review games specifically focusing on co-op. Whether it's just a game mode or a fully fledged co-op game, I cover exactly how to get into a lobby with your friends and how good the overall experience is from a cooperative perspective. I don't use review scores, I just simply give my opinion on if it's worth your time or not. As always, these reviews are sorted into the good, the bad, and the co-op. And let's get things started by talking about the good. The idea that Risk of Rain 2 pushes the hardest is that of replayability, both in its structure and overall game design. Basically, the whole goal is just to get through as many levels as you can, as fast as you can. And the reason you need to move quickly is because the more time you spend in a given match, the higher the difficulty gets. What makes this interesting though is that if you spend more time in a level, you'll be able to get better items to help you in the future. So it becomes a balancing act of trying to get good items while you can, while also not wasting time so you don't screw yourself over later.
At this point, I feel like the session is 38/10 of the lab.
38/10? That doesn't...
Yeah, it does.
Nope.
Just gotta think about it for a bit longer.
This just in, Joe doesn't know how fractions work.
And these items that you risk wasting your time to get vary wildly in both benefits and visuals. From teddy bears that give you a 15% chance of blocking damage, to sunglasses that give you a higher chance of criticals, or wax quails that up how far you jump, there really is an item for everything. The reason this is a big deal is that not only do you get to play with fun items that give you boosts, but it's also because if you get enough of them, you get elevated to god tier status when you have the ability to jump like 12 times without hitting the ground, and 75% of the hits you should be taking get negated because you have a small army of plush bears sacrificing their lives for you and your cause. Which that's just the long way of saying that the sense of progression really feels amazing.
His interns? Dang.
No!
What?
Took my teddy bear!
But items aren't the only source of variety. There are also a bunch of characters to choose from that all have their own abilities and weapons. From a turret-laying engineer to a storm javelin from Anthem and a robot-potted plant, each and every one of them plays in a different way that will most definitely fit all kinds of playstyles. And because they play so differently, different items will be more useful than others depending on who you play. Like if you were to play the agility-focused Huntress, the first thing you might want is more health considering you start with only 90 HP. But when you compare that to the slower Multi who has 200 HP at the beginning, health items are less of an immediate need. This just perpetuates the insane depth that Risk of Rain 2 promotes. Not only are there tons of individual items and characters that are unique on their own, but there are so many possibilities for the kinds of combinations you can put together. The real fun comes from finding those combinations that work best for you and the character you like to play. And an even deeper layer to that is you have to consider your whole team's composition. I don't always follow this rule, but it's generally a good idea to not all play the same character. The more diversity you have in your team's composition, the better your teammates can cover each other's weak spots. What wraps up this idea of replayability is that despite the long run times of each game, it's really easy to just jump back in after dying. It's pretty much just a couple button presses and you're back in playing already. I can remember a couple instances where I was like, yeah, I'll play another one, why not? But totally forgot that we had just spent an hour plus in that one round. Oh, medkit. Receive delayed heal after taking damage. Nice.
What the hell?
I have...
Oh, dude.
I love how instead of all of us being happy for each other, we're all just like, what the freak?
Why did I not receive that?
The last nugget of awesome that this game holds are its secrets. It's not quite Nazi zombies level complicated, but the game certainly doesn't explain anything to you. Of course, you could just look it up, but it's still super cool all the same that there's even more to this game besides its really engaging gameplay loop. Now, the bad segment of these videos are almost always easier for me to talk about than the good for some reason. However, this review is different. There actually isn't a whole lot to say. All the bad things aren't really all that major, and they could definitely be fixed before the game launches. I'll do my best to fill the time and not rush it, but to be honest, this game is freaking awesome. But anyway, the first bad thing to note is that there's definitely some balancing of the difficulty levels that needs to happen. And at the more time equals harder game thing, there are also overarching difficulties that affect the overall challenge of the game. While in theory this is a good idea, it definitely needs to be workshopped a bit. As an example, we were attempting to complete a challenge that required us to get to the 3rd level and open a specific box within 10 minutes. On the medium difficulty, also known as Rainstorm, it always felt just a tiny bit out of reach. So we were curious to see if easy, or drizzle, would be any better. We ended up making it all the way and opening the box first try. And we found similar results in trying to do many other challenges. Instead of it feeling like we were just putting our goals in reach, it just felt like we were cheating. Of course, we were still a 3-stack instead of a 4, but it would still be nice to not have the differences between difficulties be so stark. Speaking of balancing things, the difference of difficulties between bosses are similarly noticeable. Now, it's not quite as bad as the previously mentioned Rainstorm versus Drizzle comparison, but it's still not fantastic. For instance, the boss Wandering Vagrant is quite the challenge to defeat. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just not easy to kill. But when comparing Wandering Vagrant to a boss like Beetle Queen, it's no contest. Even on harder difficulties, I don't think I've died once to a Beetle Queen. Of course, this could be by design. Maybe the devs want you to feel suspense as you wait to figure out which boss could wreck your day. But at the very least, buffing some of the weaker bosses would be nice. It's impossible to aim anything with this. Oh, and you started it, and I didn't get the item I was aiming for. And it's Wandering Vagrant! Whoa!
Whoa, baby!
This is my favorite game of all time!
Hella flinch.
It's hella flinch. There's 2 of them. This is what we call the hellest of hella flinch. Yeah, I know.
Just leave.
Dude, my freaking flinch is the most hella it's ever been.
My flinch is off the charts, bro.
One nitpick that I have has to do with your health. No, it's not about how little you have at the start of a game. It's more about telegraphing when you're low on health. Now, in a game like Call of Duty or the like, if you take a good amount of damage, the screen either changes color or adds some blood to your screen. This is a way that the game can tell you that, hey, you're almost dead! In Risk of Rain 2, it certainly has something like that, albeit toned down a lot. I've been really close to dying without knowing it too many times for this to be ignored. I know people will probably say, well, why don't you look at your health bar more often? It's not that I don't look at it, it's just I don't feel the need to look at it as much when I feel like I haven't taken that much damage.
Do you mind? I don't want sounds in my videos, thank you. I would appreciate it if you kept it to a minimum.
I love how everyone's acting so triggered about that. This last piece is really just a moot point considering this game is still in early access, but there just isn't enough content. What we have right now is really awesome, but it can get repetitive with only a handful of levels and bosses. I have no doubt that'll get changed before the game is released, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Moving on to the subject of co-op, I would liken Risk of Rain 2 to something like Left 4 Dead. While not super deep in its co-op features besides stealing your friends' items that they bought, the sheer intensity of the encounters make for a fun-filled screamfest. There is some added depth with thinking about who should play what character, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not crazy important. What is important is the kind of atmosphere that Risk of Rain 2 promotes in your co-op experience. What's great about this game is the slow build to what will eventually become utter chaos. The game always starts out very calm, so the conversation usually follows suit. So hard. Deja vu, loop back. Hey, I've never looped back before.
Hey.
Oh, nice.
Now you're a real man.
I am a real boy.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
no, I didn't say that.
Son, you finally become a man. Yeah, I'm a boy.
But as the game gets harder, the louder I seem to get. Basically, if you're looking to have a calm experience with your friends, you're definitely gonna have to look elsewhere. I need to write down the timestamp. No!
Grant, don't worry about the timestamp.
This is all for a video.
We have more important things to worry about right now. He's almost dead. He's so close.
Oh my gosh.
Don't die.
I need to get the frick out of here.
Don't die.
Oh my God. Now, to get you and your friends in a lobby, it's beautifully simple. All you have to do is click multiplayer, then hit one of the plus icons below your name. From there, invite who you want from your friends list, then once everyone's in, press the start private game button. From there, you can pick your characters and difficulty, and then you're off to the races. Like I said, it's pretty simple.
spell car backwards is rock.
What is that relevant to?
What?
Who asked for that information?
Now, I know I've already said this, but I think I should reiterate. Risk of Rain 2 is awesome. If you and your friends are picky about what games you want to buy because of money restrictions, or you just don't want to waste your time, you really should consider Risk of Rain 2. It succeeds in pretty much everything it tries to do. They set out to make an addicting, replayable, and deep co-op roguelike and did just that. There really isn't much else to say besides, go buy it. You deserve it. I'm The Amazing Gap, and thanks for watching.